Research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought. That's a quote from Albert Szent-Györgyi. You're welcome to lesson 8. In this lesson, we'll be looking at articulating your aims and objective for the research. And that was such a powerful quote from Albert. To have seen so many research looking alike, but to think differently when it comes to your own research. So at the end of this lesson, you will be able to produce clear and concise and unambiguous aim for your research project. One of the most vital skills you can cultivate as a researcher is the ability to remain focused and stick to what is exactly what you want to achieve. Focus is key in research. We've been talking about, focus. We've been talking about precision. We've been talking about being able to measure exactly what you want to say. Now we are talking about focus in this lesson 8. What exactly is aim? Aim speaks about what you hope to achieve, while objective is the action that you will take to achieve that aim. I give an example. My aim is to get to the office by 7 a.m. My objective is going to be, 1, I will wake up by 5 a.m. I would be at the bus stop by 6 a.m. I would get a bus from my house to the office before 6:30. I would be able to get the office key at a certain time. So what we are trying to say is, aim is what you want to achieve, what the purpose of the study is about, while your objective is what actions are you going to take that would lead you to achieving that purpose. So you need to highlight your research aims and objective very early in your write-up, very early, so that it will sustain the interest of your readers in staying on your research work. And you don't want to leave them to be guessing, what your study is about after reading so many pages. Now, what is aim? Is an overall driving force for your research. When I read your aim, I understand in totality what you want to achieve in that research. That's what your aim should do. It is a simple and broad statement that describes exactly what you want to achieve. It should emphasize what is to be accomplished and address the outcomes of your project. That in this research, you want to achieve A, B, C, D, E. Your aim should be that straightforward. It should be broad because it should give us a snapshot of what everything is, but it's usually a statement. And that's why it can be broad. Now, I want to give some hints for clear statements of your aim. One of the things I would like to see in your aim is population. Who is the target group? 2, the setting. And lastly, the focus. If you tell us who your target is, people understand. People follow you immediately. Then where would the study be conducted? That's your setting. And lastly, what is the phenomenon under consideration? What are you thinking of? Are you thinking of breastfeeding? Are you thinking of educational training? Are you thinking of, just whatever? There must be something you are considering, irrespective of the population, irrespective of the setting of the study. So those are just hints that I want to give at the start to make your aim clear. The population, the setting, and the focus, which is the phenomenon you are considering, must be stated. Also, don't forget the 5 W's and the 1 H we talked about in previous lessons. You want to quickly check that out again. Now, let's move on to objective. I want to just lay a background before we go into maybe one example. Objective. Objectives are more detailed. Remember, we say aims are broad statement because it gives us a snapshot of the overall research. but objectives are detailed and more specific statements that describe specifically how you're going to address your aim, how you are going to address that research, building on the main issue that you have already introduced. You have given us the area of concern. You've told us about the subject you are studying. You've told us about the researcher. But when it comes to research objective, you are going to tell us specific and detailed statements of how you are going to accomplish every segment involved in that research. All right. So objectives define the what, the why, the who, the when, and the what of your research. Because by the time you look at all of this, what, why, who, when, and how, you will have really covered all the related aspects to that research topic. Also, the wording of the research objective gives a hint to what you want to do. The way you have worded your objective. You remember that it's specific, is detailed. But when I hear the wordings, I know exactly what you plan, how you want to do it. I give an example. To explore. In this research, I want to explore. It is certainly different from to define. It's also different from to describe. That, of course, is different again from to identify. If you check the meaning of all of these things in a dictionary, you will see that the focus is different. If I'm exploring a phenomenon, it's different from defining that phenomenon. You know, when you define, you just give the meaning, what it means, without applying it. It's different from examining. That's another close-up look. In this study, I want to apply. That's another higher order. To compare, to contrast, to assess, to evaluate, to establish. So really, your research objective is actually action-packed. It tells us exactly how you want to do that thing in that research. I want you to take note of it and reflect on the kind of research objectives you are thinking about. Your research objective must have an action that you want to take. Research objectives are usually linked to each other and they have a natural order in which it should flow. Remember my initial example. My aim today is to arrive at my office at 7 a.m. But I cannot say my objectives include getting the key to my office from the porter's lodge. That cannot be my first objective. Where did I put waking up from sleep, having a shower? Where did I put getting a cup of tea so that I can have some energy? Where did I put walking to the bus stop? Where is getting a bus that will take me to the office, or driving to the office, or going through the traffic? So objectives usually are linked to each other and they have a natural order and in which they should be done. And we want to also see that play out when you do your research objectives so that you are not just doing it haphazard. Remember we said that research is not an haphazard search for information on a subject. For example, you have to identify something before you can define it. And when you have defined it, you'll probably be able to describe it. After description, you're able to examine it in more details. And again, you may now be able to predict, because they are predictive research. You're able to predict how it will evolve in the future. Can you see how you need to think about your research objectives and then let it flow in that order? Now, when thinking of your research objective, leave your readers in no doubt what you will do to achieve your aim. That's what your objective is about. You are not keeping... When I read the aim of your study and I go and read your objective, I should see how you want to achieve that aim from your outlined objectives. It's just like piecing your aim, into different parts. You see that? Now, when you are writing your research objective, make sure they are SMART. I'm sure you've heard about SMART. So SMART in this context is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. All these are very important to your research objective. So, of course, specific means, specific in this context means the who, the what, the where, the how, what are the outcomes? What do you want to achieve in this research? I want to see it in your objective. Also, measurable means, can you track the progress of work done? If you start this research, are you able to measure? Are you able to follow to say, oh, this is where I am in this research? Or is it a kind of research that when you start, you don't know what you are doing and you don't know when you get to the end? How will you know when the goal has been achieved? How will you know when the aim has been achieved? That's measurable. So you don't want to state an objective that you don't know when or how it will be achieved. A is for achievable. Are you able to carry out this research? Do you have the ability? Do you have the resources? Remember, you made a research time planner and you not only identified what you wanted to do, you identified your team members who will be working with you, and you also made a budget, no matter how small. The R is realistic. Do you think the research goal is feasible considering all the situations in that research? Is it feasible? Lastly, time-bound. When will this be accomplished? Can you complete the research within the time frame for it? A lot of people want to complete their research in 6 months. Think about how the objective you have is going to be achievable in 6 months. Now, objective can be listed under 2 headings. The main objective, which is also called the broad objective, or specific objective. We have 2 types of objective in a research: your broad objective and the specific objective. The broad objective is also called the aim. Some institutions, some disciplines will ask you that you should write it as aim of the study. Some will say write it as the broad objective. They really mean the same thing, because remember we said aim is a broad statement. So we've talked about that. Specific objective are the specific aspects of the topic that you want to investigate within the bigger framework. And that's it. Remember all the steps I said I would outline to get to my office at 7 a.m. So let me wrap up with an example. Remember the statement of problem we captured in the last lesson? So now, the main objective or the broad objective for this study is to assess the available palliative services and factors that influence healthcare workers in the provision of services for people living with HIV and AIDS at public health facilities in a city in Nigeria. They put everything they are thinking of in that topic, in that broad objective, in that aim of the study. Now to the specific objectives. That's different aspects of this work. The first one is 1, to assess the available palliative care structures for people living with HIV and AIDS in public health facilities. 2, to determine the knowledge of healthcare workers about palliative care service. 3, to assess the attitude of healthcare workers towards palliative care service for people living with HIV and AIDS. 4, to assess the practice of healthcare workers with regards to palliative care service to people living with HIV and AIDS. And 5, which was the 5th objective in that study, says to determine factors that influences the healthcare workers' knowledge, attitude, and practice to palliative care for people living with HIV and AIDS. Can you see that? In fact, without telling you the title of that research, you can almost guess, because you already know the main objective, which is the aim, and you now have the specific aspects of the study. I hope you've been able to learn this very well, and I'm looking forward to you practicing this in the activity section of this lesson. We have covered about 7 lessons now, And how has this been going for you? I really want to hear from you. You can put it in the comments. There's a comment section around this, under this video, or even subsequent videos have comments. Let me know how this is going for you. Thank you, and see you in the next lesson.